Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. Episode 151. As always, I'm joined by Jordan.
Greetings, mate.
And Dom.
100% disc usage, Jared.
100%. It's over 9,000. We had our 150th episode last week. We had a pretty cool quiz. It went off a lot better than I expected. You guys ended up tying, right? Some fun questions. Oh, no, who did?
J-Dog won.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was
Ouch.
close to a tie, right? And then he got the last question right? Or he stole one? I don't
Something
remember.
like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Came down to the buzzer.
Exactly. So that was really cool. Made it past 150 episodes now. 151 of no significance. But let's hop into what we've been playing. I'll go first. Some more Super Mario Maker 2. Finally uploaded my first level to the course world. It's called Trial of Grix 1.0. Just a random name. I was like Trial of, and then I just came up with a random name.
Right.
It's a pretty cool short course. I uploaded the course ID to Twitter if you're interested. It's a speed run, so I think it's like a 30-second speed run. You can if you optimize your run, you can finish it like in 23 seconds. It's pretty like lenient on the time. It's not too hard either. Just requires a little bit of timing in terms of platforming, but it's not like anything. It's not Kaizo level. I'm not putting in like some shell jumps or P-switch jumps or anything like that. So really enjoyed that. I didn't make too much progress in the story, unfortunately. I want to get through that. It's really cool because like the whole point of it is introducing you to different design concepts and ideas that you can implement in your own levels. They're all designed by Nintendo themselves, so they're the authentic premium Mario levels you're used to, which is great. What else did I play? Some more Apex Legends Season 2, grinding away at that, having fun with the new character Watson. Haven't been playing with many people. I've been kind of hopping in solo with randoms. It's been going surprisingly well. I've won a number of games, which is pretty cool. Last week, or maybe it was the week before, was it last week or the week I was just with you, Jordan, that I was talking about Season 2 launching and like all of the daily challenges and stuff? I don't remember. That was
last week where we talked about the weeaboo chick that they made.
Oh yeah, Watson. Yeah. So it was last week. Once again, the incentive to play other characters. So I main Bangalore, and I've been playing a lot of Watson just because she's a new character. But the daily challenges differ in terms of like get 5 headshots with Octane or play a game with Bangalore. Right? It's like very specific or a little bit more skill. So, like, playing a game doesn't require any skill, right? You just hop in and you can get that unlocked for your battle pass, but for your daily challenges. But obviously getting 5 headshots requires a little bit more skill. You can be lucky as well. So I'm just loving that because there are days I'll hop on. It's like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to try to grind for that challenge, right? And there's other days where I'm like, yeah, sure. One of the funniest things is it was either like Friday or Saturday. It was finish in the top 3 as a character. And obviously I'm playing with random, so that's a lot harder. So I dropped in, and in the first like 5 minutes, my 2 teammates had died, and instead of trying to revive them or anything, I just booked it. And I did the thing I hate most in these games. I sat in a corner and camped and sat on the edge of the circle as it came in, just to get that third finish, that number 3 finish, to get the challenge, because it was towards later in the night, and I wanted to hop off to watch something, right? So, yeah, I was a little scummy, but I was able to get the challenge done nonetheless.
Scummy indeed.
Yeah, super scummy. Enjoying Apex. Playing a bit of NBA here and there, my player, which isn't anything to talk about. Let me check my...
So, Jared.
Yeah.
Since you bring up my player, for whatever reason... Oh, I know why. I started watching the movie Long Shot. Sorry, I didn't mean to like go into my own thing. With Seth Rogen and...
I get the connection. Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. And it's a over 2-hour comedy. Not that funny so far, like 30 minutes in. So we'll see if I finish that one. Anyways.
Nice. It's a long shot.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I finally looked up that song. And the reason that I'm going on this long tangent is because... what's his name? Scott Porter. His character model during the cutscene in Madden when he's playing that song on the guitar for his friend is so unbelievably bad. I was like screaming at the television that it looked so ugly. So how does the My Player situation look?
Well, this is an NBA, so it's different.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it is the 2K franchise doing better than Madden, I guess?
Well, I mean, in Madden,
In that regard, in the I'm talking about like character models.
like NPC character models with like voice sync and like lip sync and stuff like that.
Yeah, because is My Player like a story mode type of deal?
Yeah, in NBA 2K, yeah, it's essentially
Right.
that. I mean,
So I'm just wondering about the general state of character models in these story modes of sports games.
um, it, they suck at like lip sync and stuff. It's not like great, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's good for a sports game. It's not, this isn't like The Last of Us or stuff like that. And a lot of times in these sports games, unfortunately, the story modes are the modes that get the least played. So
Yeah.
the project managers are like, well, let's allocate the least amount of time to that because that's the least important thing. So yeah,
It's a weird thing, man. Like jumping into that cutscene and like remembering my brothers playing these, I'm just like, like I don't even know if you need this. It's just kind of like, do you enjoy it? Is it? It's obviously, it doesn't sound like it's on the caliber of most of the other stories and games that you'll play, but
Oh, I loved Longshot. The second one, the follow up, wasn't as good because it focused actually on Scott Porter and his like little sister, and it was less about football, so it was like less interesting. And obviously, when you do that, you can it's harder to like camouflage some of the hokey writing. But the first one's great. Like I would love for them to turn the first one into like a movie. It's a good story. It's not like mind blowing, but it's like a solid sports story. It's like just a really good redemption arc for the main character. I can't even remember his name because obviously Scott Porter isn't the main character.
You don't know me, but you will.
Oh, that's the FIFA guy. What's his name? Daniel David something. I can't remember.
Daniel David Lewis.
Yeah. Something Henry. I don't know. Anyways, so played a bit of NBA. I was trying to think if there was anything else I played. I don't think there was. 5 episodes into Stranger Things 3, not season 3 apparently.
Gotcha.
They just call it Stranger Things 3.
Right.
Enjoying that. Obviously another episode.
A 7-8 hour movie, basically.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, another episode into a lot of the shows I've been watching. So, another episode of Titans, another episode of Young Justice, another episode of Breaking Bad.
YJ.
So Titans kind of redeemed itself. Remember I said episode 3 is like one of the worst episodes of television I've ever seen.
Right.
Like, I thought it was really bad. Episode 4 is Doom Patrol, where they introduce obviously the cast of that show. The one thing that weirded me out with that episode is I could have sworn when they announced the casting for Doom Patrol, the guy who was playing the guy in the wheelchair, their Professor X or whatever, I could have sworn he was like a renowned like English actor who was white. So like when I was watching
Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, so the actor in episode 4, that's not Timothy Dalton, right?
I can't remember how they did that cast.
I don't know if they cast him for that episode, but then when the actual show came out, they actually had Timothy Dalton. Because this dude's like a brown dude, right? So he's a good actor. It was fine. It was just weird to me because I was like, in my mind, I was remembering, like, didn't they like get some like white dude to be the guy in the show? So I was like, so that's not the guy.
It's probably totally different because like Brendan Fraser is Robot Man in the show for Doom Patrol.
But he's in Titans. He's Robot Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this guy looks totally different from Timothy Dalton. So,
did they have you watched Doom Patrol at all?
I've watched the first couple episodes. I enjoy it. It's just like,
but so it is Timothy Dalton though in the
shows,
actual show.
Yeah. You
So
can
they
only do so many of these superhero shows, yeah.
So it's like a weird casting of him being in the Titans episode and Timothy Dalton being in the real show.
I guess so.
That's
because
super weird.
there's also like the voice of the what
Negative
is it?
Man?
The Changing Man? Negative Man? He's a relatively famous guy. Matt Bomer.
Yeah. I just couldn't. It was weird to me. It was off-putting because like I loved the episode. I was just like, isn't this supposed to be like a white English actor? And it's this like brown guy. You know, it's just like very off-putting to me. I was like, this is not the actor I expected it to be. So I was like, is this the character I think it is? But yeah, enjoying that. Breaking Bad. Like I said, I'm at the beginning stages of season 4. For those of you who watch the show, I'm not going to spoil it, but Dom and Jordan, the episode I just finished watching was the one where Hank got a brand new notebook.
Hank got a brand new notebook.
The vaguest I can put it. Yeah, so still enjoying the show. My one hang-up with Breaking Bad, and it'll probably be my hang-up with the show when it ends, I still think it'll probably be in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. It's very well made. It's very good. The story's very good. I just don't have any character I like care about or cheer for or like.
Walt
They're all kind of
really? Not Jesse, man.
Well, at this point in the show, he hasn't been in any of the episodes in season 4, Jordan. But like, he's an ancillary character, so it's like whatever. I don't feel bad for Jesse. You know, he's like a shitty dude. I don't cheer for Jesse.
Oh, well,
yeah,
keep watching.
I mean, he obviously tries to be a better person than Walt does. You know, just
yeah. I like him more than Walt, but he's not necessarily somebody I cheer for. And
what about Hank?
Oh no, Hank's like a racist asshole.
He's the worst.
Too. Yeah.
Dude, if you work for the what do they call it? The DEA?
The DEA?
Like, fuck out of here, dude. You kidding me?
The thing with them is like the way the show
Tom says.
the way the show writes the characters, it's like we're giving you these more realistic depictions of people, which I get. Not everybody's like white or black. It's a lot of gray, right? I understand that, but for me, it's a lot more black than white in the gray mix. It's a lot more darker gray.
Gotcha.
So it's harder for me to root for people, which doesn't make the show bad. I still enjoy it, but for me personally, to have to fall in love with the show and have it be one of my favorites, I need to have somebody I'm like actually rooting for. So that's what's tough with me with the show. 'Cause I really enjoy it. It's good. But.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I mean, there's different types of shows and how they develop characters, right? This is the way you just described what you prefer. This is not that, right? Because obviously the opposite happens. Like Walt is obviously your main character, but he goes the opposite direction. And I won't spoil it for you, but you know,
he breaks
Jesse
bad.
kind of. Yeah, Jesse. It's not so black and white, but you can at least, he's much more likable. Like he's a likable character, I think, even though he's not a good person most of the time. But he goes in a slightly different direction. But then, like, the ancillary characters like Hank and Marie, you just like want to I'm sorry, but shut up. You know, but it's great.
So
even like
this is
Saul,
actually getting me really excited for the show because I'm not remembering half of this shit that you're telling me, Jared. Especially the nuanced stuff. So that Hank's racist, I don't remember that. It's like there's a lot to go back to. So I'm excited about that, especially once I think within the next couple of years we'll be done with Better Call Saul.
And the thing too is like, so my parents have worked in corrections a lot in my life, and I've met some of my dad's friends who are Hank. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Like, I know Hanks in real life, so it's like, God damn it.
Especially working in law enforcement or whatever, like you said, but then in that part of the United States, like, you know.
Exactly. And that's it's honestly a credit to how good the show is that it's not the type of show where it has the characters I really want, but I'm still watching it and I'm really enjoying it. It's a really great show. It's just, like I said, for my personal taste, there's no one I'm really gelling with, you know, and that might change by the end of the show, but there's only not a handful of episodes, but I'm like, you know, near the end of the season and a little bit more, so we'll see what happens, but yeah, great show. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, so Saul, I don't like Saul either. I like hate Saul. Great character. I just hate him. So it's like when people are like, "Oh, Better Call Saul is good," I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't want to watch a show focused on this dude." Because like to Dom's point, at least Walt has changed. So, like at the very beginning of the show, everyone loves Walt, and then it's like Walter. It's like, and then as the show goes on, as you start disliking him more and more, as you see who he really is,
you feel less bad for him each thing he does.
Exactly. With Better Call Saul, I know he starts in a good place, and you see like the person behind the character that's in Breaking Bad, but I'm just not interested in that show. You know what I mean? Personally, even though I've heard it's in many ways it can rival or be better than Breaking Bad, but yeah, just not my idea of a good time in terms of TV show.
So I'll add really quick. It's like 50-50. So it's like half Saul and half Mike. Actually, it's 30-30-30. Half Saul, half Mike, and then half a mix of some of the people from like the cartel and Gustavo.
That actually makes me more interested. Yeah. I like Mike's character. I mean, I don't like him. He's a piece of shit too. But
it is like there's one episode in particular. I won't spoil it, obviously, but it's entirely around Mike and Better Call Saul, and it is probably my favorite episode of anything I've ever watched ever. It's like super good.
Actually, Jared, I think the most exciting part about Better Call Saul, maybe from your perspective, I should say, is someone that you haven't met at all and won't in Breaking Bad, and that's Nacho.
Yeah.
He's played by Michael Mann, I think is
Mondo.
Name.
Mando.
Yeah. Michael Mando, and he plays Voss in Far Cry 3.
He's excellent.
He is an awesome character, and of course, we're kind of waiting to see why he doesn't show up for Breaking Bad.
He's one of those where you're like, huh? Good chance he's going to die at the end of this show because he should exist in Breaking Bad.
Jared, if you want someone to root for in the Breaking Bad universe, that's your guy right there. I mean, he's gonna. I hate to break your heart. He's gonna do shitty things because he's in the show Breaking Bad.
But sometimes certain good people are, squeezed in circumstances, and just watch the show eventually. Never mind.
Yeah. I mean, one of the better characters in the show was, in terms of, like, rooting for them, was Gale, especially after you find out, like, not to spoil the show for people, skip 15 seconds real quick, the fact that he's, like, virtually responsible for Gus going to Walt, you know what I mean? When you find out that whole thing of, like, he's the reason he even, like, did the deal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Gale. Worst first name.
I will go ahead and warn you, Jared. I guess maybe it's not one of your complaints that Breaking Bad is too slow, right?
It was when remember I told you guys I had stopped watching it like a couple episodes into season 3. That was my complaint.
Slow points there.
Yeah, but obviously now I'm finishing the show now. I'm already through 1/3 of season 4, so.
Yeah, I would say Better Call Saul is like monumentally slower than Breaking Bad, which is
definitely
a weird thing to say, but it is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's super not necessary, but
yeah. That's it for me. We went on a whole tangent about Breaking Bad, but it's fine. It's a great show that deserves to be talked about every so often. What about you guys? What have you guys been playing?
I'll go. I got Red Dead Redemption 2, a little bit more of that, and that was it.
Have you reached any... Sorry to interrupt you. Have you reached, like, a chapter yet? Like, the end of a chapter? Outside of, like, the prologue, obviously.
I mean, I'm still in chapter 2, but I started... Okay. I mean, it's all open now, right? And I got to a point where I feel like I'm only doing side quests now, and that's, like, all that is available to me. I don't really know what the main quest... One complaint... Sorry. I want a quest log, and this goddamn game doesn't really do that. It kind of just has, like, markers on the map. And I don't really know which one is the main quest or where. You can kind of assume, but
yellow ones are the main quest.
Okay, so they're all main quests because there's like a bunch of them.
Or opposite of that, white. So there's white ones and there's yellow ones. One of them is main quest. One of them is side quests. The game tells you.
I've got a bunch of yellows. So
yeah.
Maybe I need to do some of those, and then like a white one will come up.
Is chapter 2 Valentine?
Yeah, that's primarily where most stuff is going on.
So. Have you gone back to camp at any point recently?
Yeah, a bunch of times.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of a reason why you might not have procced a main story mission. There is a mission log, too. It's not like an active mission log. You didn't play GTA 5, right?
No, it's just different than what I'm used to. It's like just I got to get used to it kind of complaint more than it's dumb design, right?
I think your complaint is valid because it is it's like in the menus. It's not like readily available, So I think it's a valid complaint that it should be more readily available, but
yeah. I'm just used to like in an RPG, right, where you have like quests and then like here's the main one, here's your active one, and you click on it, it's highlighted on the map, the usual system. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
not here.
I
It's
think-
just different.
Rockstar treats it as like a more cinematic experience, whereas a lot of RPGs are like
Yeah.
about the gameplay grinding and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Of like, get to this
Yeah.
mission, get to this mission. It's just a different experience.
Yeah,
and-
I mean, you can still play it in that same way though, because they are presenting, main missions and side quest. It's just kind of not almost listed in the way that Dom's describing,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah.
I do
I
kind of
definitely-
feel like that's them being like, oh, we're Rockstar. We don't label them as side quests.
It's
No, I-
pretentious, like
Yeah,
design.
I think that's what it is, because it's like it wants it to be ambiguous as far as like what I'm supposed to be doing. Because
Yeah.
that prevents the problem of like, Fallout 4, like, oh, you're supposed to be looking for your son. Why in the heck are you doing all this other random crap, right? Like, it doesn't,
Yeah.
narratively, it doesn't gel.
Yeah.
But this is like, I don't know, I'm going to go hunting. And it makes perfect sense, like, because I need some pelts because I need to do this. And
it does help with the immersion. I will give them that.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I get a letter from like this woman. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go see what she's been up to, Miss Linton, and I got this whole thing with this kid. That was great, by the way.
There's like later on in the game as you progress, Dom, there's like some missions where like you forget you're even playing like an open world game like that because you get so caught up in like these specific conversations with people where like you feel like you're watching like an animated show or something. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I've already got a little bit of that. Like one of the earlier missions is just to go and collect some debts, right? And like this one guy didn't even speak English, and that was kind of funny. And then this next guy is like, Arthur is such a good character too. It's similar to Breaking Bad, where like this guy's an asshole and he's done some shit. Clearly, he's pretty roughed up, but like how reluctant he is. Like, gotta go beat the shit out of this guy because he owes us money, and like the guy doesn't have the money, and it's just this. I don't know. It just feels so real. I don't know. I just believe it all so much.
So the thing with Arthur is like Arthur's character arc is the type I like, where I can get if somebody's an asshole but they're working towards being a better person. It's the Walt character arc of like, I'm a good person, vaguely. I don't think Walt was necessarily ever a quote unquote good person, but then he becomes a really big asshole, But yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. How many hours would you say you're in? Probably like 8 to 13-ish, probably.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, cool. Anything else?
That's been, more Elder Scrolls Blades. It's starting to burn out, but yeah, I think they're gonna change the way. It's still early access, I realized. So.
Oh yeah, it hasn't fully released, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anything else of note you wanted to mention?
No. You guys watch like *Handmaid's Tale*? That's been
No, it's on my
nuts.
like to watch. That
Watch
and
the
Big
first
Little Lies
season.
are like shows I need to get to.
Read
Yeah.
the book, watch the first season.
It's something.
Do you have
really
Amazon? Oh, you have Amazon Prime, right? Is that an Amazon show? Or is
It's
that a Hulu,
Hulu.
show? Hulu.
Yeah.
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 Lose track. It's too many streaming services. Too many streaming services.
Yeah.
Um,
That's it though. So yeah.
yeah. Jordan?
So I didn't play anything this week. What I
Next?
did do was,
No, I'm just kidding.
obviously, I watched plenty of stuff, and I actually kind of like finished a bunch of stuff. Went through the last season of Veep, which came out a year later than expected because Julia Louis-Dreyfus had some health issues, and so I don't know if you guys have seen that show, but it's an HBO show where she plays the vice president, and it's just mostly a parody of American politics, which is not a topic I'm usually interested in, but this show is really fucking funny. It's probably the most cynical show I've ever seen, but sometimes that's funny. I kind of watch it in small doses for that reason, but enjoy it nonetheless, or did. I guess it's over now. So kept watching Hannibal through the first season, and I'm now on the second, and yeah, that show's fucking wild, man. It is unbelievably dark and like goes to such crazy depths and is like just extremely explicit. But I think it is a really good show, and I'm really enjoying it. So also, I think like I mentioned, I'm taking that in small doses as well because of how basically fucked up of a show it is. Shout out to the kind of like lighting and color grading on that show. It is so dark, with kind of like the HDR vibe on the TV. It's just ridiculously darkly lit for anything that someone's filming, but somehow they get away with it and make it look just pretty much perfect. I'm sure it wouldn't be perfect on every screen. I'm sure it could be really annoying on certain viewing experiences, but it's a really visually interesting show from that standpoint, and many others, but I won't go all the way into that. So yeah, Hannibal season 2 and Barry season 2, which Barry season 2 is, I think, is way better than season 1. Season 1's definitely good to great, I would say, but Barry season 2 is really awesome, and super funny, man. Like, just some crazy wild shit on that show as well. Very much like absurdist in many different ways, but also has a really interesting heart to it, and has a good focus and a lot of aspects when it's not being as silly. So really enjoy Barry. Finished an anime called Soul Eater, which was I also recently watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is animated by Bones Studio, which is as far as like anime studio that does individual series mostly as opposed to movies, I would say Bones is by far the best, I think, doing it right now. And of course, they're currently animating probably the biggest show in the world, which is My Hero Academia. But back about 10 years ago, they were doing Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and then right before that, they did Soul Eater. And so I think that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is probably the best looking anime I've ever seen, with just fucking absolutely gorgeous, like, painterly backgrounds with these brushstrokes that you almost wouldn't believe. And I wouldn't say that Soul Eater is quite on that level, but it is an amazing looking anime nonetheless. And it's basically about kind of like Monster Hunter, Reaper type people. It's goofier than I kind of made it sound there, but of course it's anime. But it's about an academy of these death scythes, as they're called, and their weapons, which are people that turn into weapons, similar to like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, with the blades, I think they're called. But really great anime. It's a very anime. It also has now my favorite voice acting role of Troy Baker, which he has a bunch of anime stuff under his belt, but he plays this fucking ridiculous ass character, and is just fucking hilarious. So I really enjoyed that. I watched The Conversation with Gene Hackman, which is a Francis Ford Coppola movie in between Godfather 1 and 2, where Gene Hackman is like a bugger that records people's conversations and kind of gets embroiled in some shit with Harrison Ford and Robert Duvall. And it's a little bit long. It's like 2 hours, but other than some slower parts, it's an interesting movie, I would say. Not on the caliber of Godfather 1 and 2, but interesting nonetheless. So, yeah, that's a bunch of stuff that I watched this week.
I gotta add one thing. I don't know how I forgot. There's a little mini-series on Netflix. I don't know if you've heard of this yet. It's called When They See Us.
Oh, Ava DuVernay produced it, right?
It's about
Or
the
Duvernay,
Central Park 5, these kids. I don't tell you the whole story. I mean, it's like it'll take you less than 5 hours. It's like 4 episodes. I would say that it's something everyone in this country should probably watch. Like, just as a broad statement, like, just very necessary. Super good.
Yeah.
Super good.
It
Jared,
critically was received well.
I also watched. Whoa. My video stopped recording on my iPad. But anyways, I also watched Stranger Things 3. So, but since you haven't finished it, I won't go into that.
Still gotta watch 2.
Oh, I could have sworn you had said you had already watched 3. Dom, I thought you were caught up. Yeah. How do you feel about Stranger Things since you haven't watched all of it yet?
I mean, season 1, like, oh, this is really cool. A couple episodes in, by the end of it, I was like, I don't really care for the story here.
I don't think you need to mess with it, because I'd say after finishing season 3, I think season 1's still the best by far.
Because I'm like, oh, these characters are cool. This, the aesthetic is cool. But like the story, like of what's actually going on, I was kind of like, all right, yeah, sure. It didn't.
Yeah. I said I wasn't gonna say anything about Stranger Things. I felt that way even like a few episodes in. I will say that.
Not bad. I think it's just I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
So do you think? Are you feeling like season 3 is better than 1 so far, Jared?
Oh no, I agree with you. Season 1's the best.
Yeah. Okay.
And obviously I haven't finished season 3 yet, but yeah, it's as it contains. Like you can watch season 1 and enjoy it and never watch the other 2 seasons and feel satisfied.
Sure.
So yeah, I wouldn't say it's better than season 1 at all. That's it for what we've been playing. Let's hop into the news. Got some quickie news, and then we're going to talk about some new Nintendo Switch hardware. 2 different things that were announced. One more recently, and one we're about a week late on due to episode 150. But first up, this is some other old news we missed. There's a Cuphead Netflix animated show that was announced called The Cuphead Show. It's currently in the beginning stages of development. It'll be hand-drawn but digitally, so in a self-titled tradigital way. It's being handled by one of Netflix's animated studios. It's not being handled by Studio MDHR, though they are overseeing the project. And it's going to be about the Inqua Isles and feature a lot of the characters in the game and some new characters and situations. I'm stoked. Cuphead is, we've talked about it, it's like a really special game in terms of art style and the fact that Studio MDHR, the Moldenhauers, put their home on the line for the success of the game, which is ill-advised. Never do that, because not everybody has it work out the way they did. For every success story, there's 50+ tragedies. But this is really cool because out of a lot of different game properties, I think Cuphead does have a chance to excel in other entertainment mediums. Just the art style is very visually pleasing. That's one thing about the show is it's slightly different than the game. Because the art style in Cuphead, though it is visually pleasing, it can be a little bit creepy and off-putting with some of the animations because it is that very retro, old-timey, like Disney style.
That's how those cartoons really were. Like, they were fucked up back in the day, man.
So for it to appeal to a broader audience, they tweaked it a little bit. It still reads as Cuphead, but it is a little bit more cutesy, and for the modern age. It's not 100%... what's the art style people say everything is doing now? The Cartoon Network art style? The one for like, all those Cartoon Network shows with Steven Universe, and what's the one that takes place like in Portland that everyone loves? What is it called? Man, I can't remember it.
I understand what you're trying to convey, but I just don't know the term.
Yes, they have a term for it because everyone's like, oh, all the cartoons look the same or whatever. Because they all have that same kind of style. It's not necessarily like that. It's just a more cutesy version of the Cuphead game.
That's what I was going to say, Jared. I think Western animation, obviously, Eastern animation and anime, and to be more specific, is a whole other conversation. But I think Western animation is kind of in a stagnant place, especially for TV as opposed to movies.
It's homogenized quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and like... especially, it's all about the advent of 3D and what they've... Like, Netflix has so many goddamn 3D animated series that are, like, DreamWorks properties or what the fuck ever, there's still plenty of great stuff coming out, but it's certainly not where it needs to be, and this is going to stick out quite a bit, and I would really like to see more things greenlit that are like this, that don't look, like you said, part of that homogenized style.
Well, the great thing is we're recording this obviously the weekend of San Diego Comic-Con. We might get our first extended look at Primal, which is going to be dope.
Primal, which is Gendy Tartakovsky's new series.
Exactly, yep. Which looked really cool from the teaser.
Is a perfect example of someone who has always done, as far as his 2D animation has been, very stylized and very much stands out from the crowd. I would say that Hotel Transylvania is the exact opposite. It's like basically just a standard looking DreamWorks style 3D animated movie series, but nonetheless, with his TV stuff, he goes there.
That movie, not a masterpiece, a lot better than it has any right to be, though. I think it's better than the cacophony of other DreamWorks.
It definitely, I would say they stand above the crowd. Maybe they're like a good 7.5 or 8, but as far as the animation style, they look pretty standard.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, Tim Willits. If you're not familiar, he's the studio director at id Software. He's been there for 24 years. If you watch E3 every year, he was the shorter guy that stood next to the really large metal-looking dude when they unveiled Rage 2 at E3 2018. You remember that, when there was like the really tall guy from Avalanche and then the really short guy from id? It's that guy.
Okay. Yeah.
An older like white gentleman, doesn't really have any facial hair. He announced that he's leaving id now after QuakeCon. After 24 years, it seems like he just wants to move on to something else. Nothing nefarious, he just seems like he probably wants to pursue something. When you're a studio director of a successful development house like that, like id Software, the people known for first-person shooters, your career could become a little stagnant, so it's not surprising. We see this often with people who are at these companies a long time. They leave to pursue other ventures and kind of challenge themselves creatively, right? No successor has been announced yet. But a lot of people feel that one of the strongest names that can take over as studio director is another face you're probably familiar with, Marty Stratton, who's the executive producer. He's the white guy with like the slick back black hair that comes out for all of the Doom presentations. It's usually him and Hugo Martin, who's the Hispanic guy that comes out, who's also one of the producers on the games. He's been there for 23 plus years. So people think that he might be the name to look at in terms of taking over to studio director. id Software, their history goes back a long time, and they're known for, working with Unreal, known for being like some of the best, if not the best, studio in terms of first-person controls and feel and all of that. So leading that studio is a pretty important job. I'm pretty sure Bethesda is keeping a close eye on that because they're one of their best studios, if not their best. So no news there. Just wanted to mention that because it is a big departure in the industry. And Tim Willits, though he's not a common name amongst people, he's not a Kojima, he seems to be very influential and important in id Software's success. So be interesting to see where he lands. Next up, another story I know all three of us are super excited for. Hope you sense the irony in my voice. EA announced Plants vs. Zombies 3. I know this game doesn't really matter to any of us, but Plants vs. Zombies has been huge.
Whoa.
Oh, my bad.
Assumptions, Jared.
Yeah, I didn't. I assumed you weren't a Plants vs. Zombies guy. My bad. Apologies.
Whoa. I've been awaiting this announcement, bro.
Are you being serious? Do I need to sense the irony?
I'm being serious right now. You don't fucking know me, bro.
So.
No, I'm legitimately excited. I mean, I'm not, it may not be top 10 excited, but I'm excited.
So, yeah, Plants vs. Zombies 3 was announced. No real details outside of the fact that it will be free to play, but the beta version that they're going to be releasing has no microtransactions in it. Obviously,
so
hold your breath because it'll probably wait for release to add those in, so who knows.
That's what I was worried about right there, was free to play. That's what I was dreading, that statement. I mean, they've already done that with like previous games, so it's not that surprising, but it's just like I wanted it to be just like a regular game that you buy.
Yeah. Did I assume for you too, Dom? Are you a Plants vs. Zombies guy?
Yeah, and I can't believe you would disrespect such a storied franchise. No, I don't give a flying fuck, dude.
Okay. I'm sorry
I
for
even
assuming
played
that
a little bit of Garden Warfare, dude.
That game was surprisingly fun. I like that. I've
game
never
was
been a
good.
Plants vs Zombies guy, but those games are fun. I wonder if what it would be 3, right? I wonder if that could be a launch title for next gen. Maybe. Who knows? Because it falls in that kind of category, right? Like a launch window launch type game.
Sure.
Um,
That is a tremendous, like, franchise conversion, spin-off type of thing. Like, taking something that's known for, what is it, kind of like a tower defense style? Would
yeah,
you say?
that's what I would call it, yeah.
And then you incorporate those elements into basically a shooter. I really like that.
So the last bit of quick news before we hop into the Switch stuff is, like I mentioned previously, we're recording this during the weekend of San Diego Comic-Con, and the Marvel Games panel happened earlier on July 18th. It's the day we're recording.
Yeah.
And there were some new details that came out about Marvel's Avengers. There's some top-level stuff I want to cover first, and then there's some news regarding the campaign that Jordan specifically wanted to talk about. So we'll hit that last. I'll get over these quick details first. So first up, they unveiled some new alternate costumes for the characters. They mentioned that there's going to be a lot of costumes from the history of the comics, right? The characters, their old classic costumes, certain costumes from certain events in the comics. But they also announced, just like with Spider-Man PS4, there are a number of costumes that were designed by Crystal Dynamics that are original suits. Obviously, none of this panel was supposed to be shared online, but it is the age of the internet, so images have been shown. 2 of the costumes that were shown off were Joe Fixit for Hulk, which, if you're not familiar with Joe Fixit, it was essentially his like original version of the character where he was the gray Hulk with the business suit. He looked like an Italian New York mobster. They showed off that suit. And they also showed off a bearded Hulk, but they didn't... People are unsure who it is. I talked to Jordan before the podcast. I think it might be Maestro Hulk, if you're not familiar.
Maestro
is kind of like the overlord old man Hulk from the Old Man Logan series, where he kind of like runs the world. And he has the intelligence of Bruce Banner with the strength of the Hulk. And then the other stuff they showed off that we didn't talk about, Jordan, was actually the graphics updates. Remember people complained about those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually
especially like the characters, like
the character models,
if you will.
So an image of Black Widow came up online, and there's a comparison shot from the E3 footage, which she kind of looked like an Uncanny Valley version of. For me, she reminded me of the actress from How I Met Your Mother and Nick Fury's right-hand woman at S.H.I.E.L.D. I forget the actress's name.
Kobe Smulders.
Kobe Smulders. Kind of looked like Kobe Smulders a little bit, but like not really. It was a very weird Uncanny Valley thing. The new image, you can see the improvement already. The hair on the character model seems to fit a lot more. It doesn't look like a weird wig. If you're familiar with E3 footage, I wasn't too upset with the character models. I know some people were, but looking at these images, you can see an easy improvement over them tweaking stuff, and they heard the feedback. And the last thing before we hop into this stuff you specifically want to talk about, Jordan, this came out from, they showed the demo, which was behind closed doors at E3, and we still haven't seen it, right? So apparently, people are saying that in the extended demo, if you remember when the ship explodes, it was due to like a Terrigen mist explosion, right, Jordan? Obviously, I'm not pointing you down because I know you don't know anything about any of this crap, this comic stuff. So apparently in the demo, you see a girl who gets consumed by the Terrigen mist, and she's identified as Kamala Khan. So people are assuming that maybe one of the first DLC characters will be Miss Marvel. Dom, it's a younger girl of I don't actually know Kamala Khan's.
She's from the Middle East for sure.
Yeah. I just don't know if she's. I think she's Indian, but obviously I don't want to label her as something she's not. But anyways, she's a pretty prominent character now in the Marvel comics, and they're bringing her up because she's.
I don't think she's Indian.
I think
I'm googling.
Yeah, Google to save us. But she's a pretty prominent character in the comics, Dom, and she's like a younger girl, so like. It's a character that Marvel wants to bring into the forefront for obviously diversity's sake, but also she's a young girl hero, which we don't normally see outside of like the X-Men in the Marvel universe, right? She's usually, when she's featured in comics, she's like early high school age, which would fit well.
Pakistani,
okay, yeah. Not Indian. So anyways, her origin is that she's consumed by Terrigen Mist, and she gets these powers. So it's just really cool to see. This is how I was hoping that they would tie in new characters with DLC, is that they're in world, you know what I mean? So it makes sense when they appear. It's like, oh, they're a hero, as opposed to like a randomly out of nowhere DLC. So I hope they keep up with that. I just thought it was a cool tidbit. The story stuff that Jordan wanted to talk about. So it was actually confirmed that the story campaign, there's two things about it. One, it's going to feature levels that are hero specific, as well as levels that you can choose any hero. And from what the director said, Shane Eskog, more of the levels will be open to interpretation for whatever hero you want to select, but there will be a good number of hero specific missions where you can only use them. And the other thing is that single player missions for the single player campaign are completely separate and different than the multiplayer stuff. So when you hop into multiplayer, you'll be actually going and experiencing new things that you didn't see at all in the single player campaign, and vice versa. And you actually were pretty happy about this, right, Jordan?
Yeah, so basically everything about that is spot on. And I think if I was going to ask for an Avengers game, I'd ask for those things. I'd say I'm wanting to be able to choose what Avenger I play as. Yes, it's going to be Iron Man quite a bit if he's up to snuff. And then, yeah, it's cool if they have specialized missions where they're like, you're going to go smash stuff. Obviously, you're going to be the Hulk, although I guess you could be Thor. But, you know, you're going to do certain things with certain characters. In hopefully cool ways, not just like, hit the targets with Captain America's shield, you know? Like, and then, obviously, I probably won't get super into the multiplayer, but I think that those being separate missions is exactly what they need to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the best case scenario for everyone, because not only does it give the game more like actual gameplay for people, right? More built-in value because you're not retreading the same missions. It lets people who want to specifically do something do it without worrying about, oh, well, if I don't really care about multiplayer because I'm just going to go in and play the levels I already played in single player or vice versa. So I think it adds to that, and I think it makes it better in terms of you wanting to upgrade your characters or get new costumes or grind, because as we've been told, all of the DLC will be free, which means that even from the beginning of the game, it's going to be all stuff you don't experience in the single player, instead of, like we talked about, retreading all the single player missions when it comes out and then having to wait for that DLC for it to be something wholly different, right? So it's pretty cool. Another thing I wanted to add that they talked about in terms of gameplay is that the helicarrier will be like your hub for the game, which is really interesting. I don't know if that means like, what's the place in Destiny called, Jordan? Where you tower. Like all the multiplayer, the tower. I don't know if it's going to be the tower where it's a place you hang out at.
The farm in Destiny 2, right?
Yeah, the farm as well. I actually like that location. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the farm's cool.
I don't know if it's going to be like that where it's like a location where you chill at, and then when you want to specifically go do single player, multiplayer, you go there, or if it's like a map that you see in the actual ship where you can pick any number of those, right? I don't know how that's set up. We'll obviously find out more. They announced that the demo will be coming online after Gamescom, so around the time that the Cyberpunk demo is going to be dropping online as well. And the last thing for comic book nerds, the other suits that they showed off for characters were the Iron Man MK42, which I don't remember that model off the top of my head, and the scale mail cap, which is one of my favorite like OG Captain America suits, which has his his chainmail scale stuff on his chest. I think that's pretty much it. There was a collector's edition statue showing off 2 of Captain America. Be excited for that, I guess, if you're really into collector's editions.
Be excited for E3.
People like the quality at San Diego Comic-Con. The thing there is, like, was it just people excited because they were at the panel and they got to see it for the first time, or is it actually like a really dope statue? The track record of collector's editions would lead you to believe it's probably not, but we'll see.
You talked about Miss Marvel Kamala Khan tease. I'm starting to wonder now, is the main story just the Avengers that we saw in the original trailer that you're playing as, and then you have like DLC missions maybe as, well, I guess if you can choose, and they add in another character, then you could, let's say play as Deadpool, even though that's not really a great example. He's technically an Avenger, but
my assumption to that, Jordan, would be that
yeah,
in the story mode, I would say at the very least 3 hidden characters, right? Because if you're going into multiplayer, only having 5 characters for people to choose from, if it ends up being 4-player multiplayer, it's like, well, you only have 4 choices.
Well, we say that, but don't forget about Ant-Man. He also got teased.
Exactly. So I think he may be one.
Even though he's not like one of the main guys that they were talking about playing as.
Exactly.
That up.
He might be one. Kamala Khan actually might not be a DLC. She might be a character you see by the end of the story, right? And Hawkeye could possibly be one too. They've teased that.
I'm wondering if I should get excited for like possible characters that I'm going to get to play as, or if that's just going to be more of an in-game thing, more of a online multiplayer thing that I'll be like, oh, cool, they added this character, but I've already played through the story. Who knows if it's DLC or what?
Here's what I'll say. I'll even put a bet on it. Not something that you have to lose for, but a personal bet, because this is how confident I am. I will bet that there are at least 3 more characters than the 5 Avengers, right, that we've seen. At least 3 characters that you'll have access to at launch, and if that's not the case, I'll play through the first, I'll say, 5 hours of multiplayer with Black Widow, who's like my least favorite of the 5 to play through.
Are you like making a bet against yourself?
Yeah, it's fun. We need more bets on this show. I'm gonna do a bet.
Okay.
Hey man,
whoa.
You cut your hair.
Oh, toss a little fuel on the fire.
I bet we'll have at least one bet every episode for the next month.
I don't know about that, but I wanted to throw something in there. So we'll see. So remember, if there's not at least 3 extra characters you can play as by the end of the campaign at launch, I have to use Black Widow for the first 5 hours of multiplayer.
Oof. The game comes out in like a year.
That's another thing. They announced the exact release date, May 15th. So it was just May. It was just May, and then they announced May 15th, which I was like, yeah, we already knew that. And then I was reading, and it's like, oh no, we just knew May. We didn't have a specific release date.
So we've had an Avengers movie in late spring the last 2 years, and so it'll be nice that this fills in that slot.
Yeah.
Good point.
But man, looking at the schedule right now, for me, it's like the first 3 months of 2020, and this is just the games we know about so far and that I've listed, so I could be missing stuff. But like February, I have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, dope. April, we have Cyberpunk 2077, and then the following month, Marvel's Avengers. I haven't written down Final Fantasy 15 Remake, though I don't think I'm buying it at launch because
7 Remake.
7 Remake, I said 15 Remake, yeah. We'll get that eventually. I want to touch on this real quick since we're on the subject of it. I've come to the conclusion I'm not buying 7 Remake at launch because it's only on PS4. And the only reason I'm saying that is because... it's people are assuming it's a timed exclusive. I doubt it'll only be on PS4 forever. But it's solely because of the next console generation and the fact that, like, this is still under the belief that it'll eventually come to Xbox. If we get hard confirmation it doesn't, then my plans will change. But I don't want to buy it on PS4, and then when the sequel comes out, I won't have any of that save data transfer crap that'll probably be in it, right? Because then I'll get the sequel on Xbox. I don't want to deal with all of that stuff. So I'm just going to wait.
I'm still like one of those people, and maybe it's just because I'm ignorant, but I'm one of those people that's still like, I don't understand what this game is as far as, is this a part of a game that's just elongated?
It's the first movie in it's the first movie in a trilogy of games. So you've got like a trilogy of movies. It's Batman Begins.
Yeah. It's like breaking up Harry Potter or The Hobbit into multiple movies for one book.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but okay, that's probably a better comparison because I was going to say those trilogies, or like Batman Begins, that story wasn't being broken up. It just existed already in 3 parts, right? This is a existing story that's being broken up, and I assume, more is going to go into it. I don't really know.
The first one's going to be Midgar, which is like that town that you see. So from what I've read, and obviously I've never played through the game, but Midgar in the original game was like a 6 to 8 hour experience.
Right.
And then you'd go elsewhere. Obviously that game's kind of long. So this is just like they're expanding that. So like there's going to be more stuff happening in the specific city. So what people assume is there's something that happens in the story, which I don't know about, that is potentially an Easter egg, a spoiler. But like the game's going to end with you about to leave Midgar, and that's where the game ends. So in the second game will be post Midgar. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that actually might be better for us who are unfamiliar with the game, Don, because it gives us more of the world to intake before we expand outwards. Like, it's just a city we're focusing on, whereas if it was like all of it, it could be a little overwhelming. But to your point, if it's a story being split up, I hope it's satisfying by the end of the game and it doesn't feel like, oh, I just played 1/3 of a game. Even though it is expanded, you could still get that feeling by the end of it. That's my worry.
I think that they're going to make it work from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm optimistic.
You're more optimistic than me. It's just, I mean, and there's more time. They just haven't sold me on it yet, right? Because I'm still like, it just weirds me out because this is a new idea mostly of what they're trying to do here. And I hope, and I would like to assume that they're doing it for a reason, a creative reason, that they had some good ideas of like, you know what if at some point they were making this, like, what if all this other stuff also happened while we're in Midgar, and then it eventually got to the point where they're like, well, this needs to just be its own game, and then they went from there. I hope there's good creative reasons for it, is all.
Yeah, you can go first, Jordan. I'll go after you.
I was just going to say, having been through the Midgar section, I can already tell that they've added kind of some meat to the bones of this section.
Yeah, and doing this type of thing actually justifies a remake in a lot of ways to people because it isn't just a rehashing of the same exact thing. So in that way, it gives credence to its existence in the first place of like, yeah, we're not just like upping the graphics on a game you already played, 20 years ago?
Yeah, although Final Fantasy VII probably needs the least amount of convincing as far as remakes go.
Yeah. And I think partially part of it, Dom, is that we've seen Square Enix have trouble getting games developed and released in a good amount of time, and I think them focusing on the city maybe gave them the stress relief to like tackle it all in a timely manner instead of like taking on the entire game. Right? They're like, okay, we're going to focus on Midgar, we're going to beef it up, make it a standalone game, and we don't have to worry about doing the rest of Final Fantasy VII yet, because I think if it was all of Final Fantasy VII, we probably still wouldn't be seeing this game for a number of years.
So you made that sound good. And I'll say the same thing and make it sound bad, right? Of, oh crap, Square is whatever. We need to get something out the door next year. There's no way we can do what we wanted, so we got to split this project up into 3 parts, and we're going to sell what would have been, a half or a third of what we wanted for $60. We're going to, you know what I mean?
The only counter argument to that
predatory idea.
The only counter argument to that is they're releasing Avengers next year, which whether that's an okay game or a great game, that game's going to sell very well. You know what I mean?
True.
So like they don't have another big game in their fiscal year. But then again, how much money are they really trying to bring in, Maybe they do need both of those hitting at the same time.
Yeah. Because Avengers was probably also a big investment too. But you're right, that will, no matter what, that's going to sell bonkers. But isn't that, I don't know when the fiscal year ends. Shame on me, I guess. But that May would be after. March. Whereas Final Fantasy VII is now planned for prior to the end of the year, right?
Maybe
I'm wrong.
Hold on. Let me see here. I'm looking up Square Enix. What are we looking at? What am I Googling? Fiscal year.
When does a fiscal year end? And the release date for FF7 Remake?
I'm checking to see when their fiscal year ends. So their fiscal year ends in March 31st of every year.
So I'm not saying, obviously we had no idea, but there's got to be at least a hint of a possibility of someone said like, what can we get anything out by the end of the fiscal year or whatever, and then that potentially drove a decision to split that game up where it might not otherwise have. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's just my worry, is that that's what's driving it instead of a purely creative decision.
It could be
still
too.
good.
It could be both as well.
And even if that is what happened, it could still be a great game and it's everything. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad thing or bad value.
So it comes out March 3rd, which is a couple of weeks before, obviously, which is crazy to think about that they're going to... Final Fantasy VII Remake, whether it's only going to be on PS4, obviously, at launch, it's going to sell gangbusters, right? It's going to do great for their fiscal year. Then, like, 2 weeks, or actually, no, March, April, May, 6 weeks after that fiscal year ends, they're already going to get a boom to the following fiscal year with Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah,
it's going to be crazy.
Sitting pretty.
Yeah. That's it for our Square Enix talk for the week. Let's hop into the Switch news. So I'm going to go over the information. I'm going to ask you guys, how do you want to do this? You want to go light, talk about it, and then new Switch SKU talk about it, or you want me to give the details on both, and then we can just move the conversation from there for whatever you guys want to talk about?
Let's
do both, because
both.
Okay. The second one isn't
as big.
Exactly. So I'm going to read through all of this, and then we'll have the discussion. So the Nintendo Switch Lite was announced. Obviously, we're a little late on this, once again, due to the episode 150. But it's coming September 20th, 2019. Same day as Link's Awakening, day before my birthday, which is pretty cool. It's going to have a new D-pad, $200 price point, a smaller form factor. It's going to be one solid piece of hardware, so the Joy-Cons are non-detachable. Slightly better...
No HD rumble.
Exactly. No HD rumble, non-dockable, no kickstand, and lastly, it's going to have a slightly better battery than the normal Switch, which is 2.5 to 6 hours, and this one's going to be 3 to 7. It's going to be coming in 3 main colors: turquoise, yellow, and gray. And there's a special edition red, white, and blue Pokemon one, which we all talked about. Like, if there is a new model, it's going to come bundled with Pokemon. It has to, right? And we were right about that. The second one that was announced this week is it'll pretty much be the exact same as the current Nintendo Switch model, but will feature a battery life of 4.5 to 9 hours, which is a great improvement on the current model's 2.5 to 6.5. It'll feature a bright red package, which is different than the current Nintendo Switch packaging, to try to alleviate confusion. It'll ship in gray and the red and blue models that you know from the original Switch launch. It'll release in mid-August in the US and September in the UK. Alongside the new model, there will also be 2 new pairs of Joy-Cons, a purple-orange combination and a blue-yellow combination. And the new Switch will cost the same retail as the current model. So we have 2 different Switches.
They won't release just solid colors together.
Exactly. Exactly. The first thing I want to touch on is the new D-pad. This was one of the things that kind of has me.
I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, it kind of has me wanting to eventually buy a Switch Lite, just as my portable. Because I don't think.
Wow. So I was gonna say that kind of the exact opposite, which is that I don't know what the whole hullabaloo about the whole D-pad situation is, to be honest. And I'm all about the form factor of a controller, but I tend to think that really, because the Switch Lite is not disconnected, it's all one piece, right?
Yeah.
I tend to think that those are actually functionally a little bit worse for me, because I feel like you have a higher chance of hitting a direction that you're not intending to.
I get that.
Going up and accidentally hitting right. But that's less likely, I feel like, when they are literal individual buttons. However, I can understand the comfort of them not being those tacky little buttons over there on the left.
So, Jared, have you seen, they do sell a left Joy-Con that has a regular D-pad. You can't use it, outside. It has to be in handheld mode, right? But you could fulfill that need without buying a whole new console, I guess, if you really wanted the D-pad.
True. That's a valid point. It's just
putting
for me,
that out there.
Yeah, I can't play Super Mario Maker 2 portable. I can't. It's I hate that D-pad that much for that game. It's been serviceable for other games. I just can't play it with Mario Maker. I don't know what it is. It's just for me, it's virtually unplayable. So I have to have it docked.
Wait, I thought there was some shit with Mario Maker. How do you... Because you can't do touch if you're playing it in docked mode, which is the OG version of Mario Maker, right? So... Yeah. You're doing it all with the controller, I guess?
Yeah, you can create levels with the controller. Obviously, it's way...
No, I'm sure that's fine, but I'm just... You don't have the drag and drop touch controls or whatever.
Yeah, the premium best way to make levels. It's a little rougher playing docked, creating levels, but it's...
I guess you could create in handheld, right?
Yeah, creating isn't too bad. I just like doing it on my TV because I have more screen to look at.
Sure.
Trying to create stuff, it gets a little busy.
Yeah.
What else? So yeah, the D-pad. Considering I probably won't consider since the new Xbox is coming out next year and the new PlayStation, but it was enough of The battery life is
Yeah,
slightly
you of
better,
all
but it's
people, Jared, which is not the one to be like, oh yeah, I'm getting a PS4 Pro or whatever, like that is surprising that D-pad is that important to you.
yeah, but it's like the recent announcement optimism in me, like the realist Jared consumer in me. I'm not gonna get it. You know what I mean?
Okay,
If I'm being honest,
sure.
I'm not gonna get it. But like the optimist in me, like,
I mean,
man, that D-pad.
I'm wondering if having the form factor with the non-detachable Joy-Cons is gonna alleviate some issues, because I've been hearing new reports about Joy-Con drift, which just is basically something that I remember from like old controllers back
always
on
happened.
probably like PS2 days,
Joy-Cons.
well, what it is your controller is recognizing movement in the left analog stick without there actually being you actually touching the stick at all, right? And yeah, that's happened before back in the day, Dom, but I feel like it was on either cheaper controllers or further into like using the controller. I feel like at this point it shouldn't be happening, especially people talking about it happening with like new Switch systems that they're just buying now.
Yeah, it happens in mine. That's like probably 6 months after I got the Switch. I've noticed it every once in a while. Playing Mario Kart, sometimes you would just veer off to the left, and you're like, "What the hell? I didn't do that."
Dude, well, that might be sync issues, like connectivity issues, because I have that as well. I've of course talked about that, and that's a known issue with the Joy-Cons. I've even like tried to repair or kind of like circumvent the intent by cracking it open, but it's ridiculous.
Joy-Cons.
It's just so ridiculous that the Joy-Cons, like someone was mentioning online, these are like a luxury, like premium controller, because
$80.
they're more expensive. $80 or $70, I think, for a Pro, right?
Yeah.
Is obviously over 60 for PS4 or Xbox controllers. It's ridiculous that a DualShock 4 is not going to break down on you for a very long time, if it ever does. And Nintendo is just getting away with murder with how, I think, flimsy the hardware is in this situation. We'll see about the Switch Lite, obviously, but this is a concern that I remember raising at launch for Switch, where it's just really frustrating that it's been treated like totally different from other Nintendo consoles, which have traditionally been very solid in the hardware. So that's really upsetting, but I'm obviously, this Switch Lite announcement really has me looking forward to a possible Switch Pro, which I'm hoping is kind of like all those hopes and dreams that I'm talking about. Certainly not going to be jumping ship to the new better battery life one, because it's never been an issue for me. I'm always around a charger, and am not usually playing for like more than 6 hours at a time without hooking up. But at the same time, it would be nice. I think that the battery life you're looking for in this situation is kind of more what I would have hoped for at launch.
This is the market refresh that we don't get as early adopters. It's like the people who waited for a Switch can buy this. That's what it's for. It's not like
right. But like I said, if I do think we're going to be getting a Pro next year, and
give me that D-pad.
With that being said, I think that exactly. I think that you'll be looking at better battery life for that, obviously. So
with the D-pad on the Switch, I don't necessarily need it to be the one that's on the Lite, like the fully connected cross. I'd even be down with something akin to the PlayStation D-pad, right, where it's like almost connected.
Arrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't like the individual button thing. I was completely fine with it before Super Mario Maker 2 came out, and then it completely shifted how I feel about it. But yeah, they're interesting. I know some people have been complaining about the Nintendo Switch Lite not having less of a bezel. I think people don't understand the Lite is like for kids mostly, and I think having more of a bezel is actually better for it, because it's less screen for a kid to break. The one thing I'm
surprised at how many people have kind of like been interested in possibly getting it, when it's like, I mean, pretty much in every sense of the word, it is a lesser version of your if I'm talking about people that already have Switches. Now, if you want to get a second one, which I don't necessarily understand because I think you would just get a second dock, like the whole point of the Switch is the portability. Although, Switch is a weird thing. Like, if I take it and I live with somebody, then they can't play it while I'm gone, so that, I get that part. It's a whole logistical kind of
Also,
clusterfuck. But
if you're somebody who has like had, there's people who had terrible luck with red rings, where like they had like 5 red rings in a row, whereas like normally you would have one, right, at the very least.
Yeah.
Fucking me.
There's probably people who have suffered from really bad luck with Joy-Con drift and stuff like that. So maybe the prospect of them having like a fully contained thing where they're not constantly shelling out $80 for a new pair of Joy-Cons. That being said,
that person is me, and that does sound nice, but I just feel like it's not. I don't feel like it's guaranteed that it'll be fixed with it being one solid piece.
Yeah.
And I do also feel like the Switch loses a lot of luster when you take away the detachable Joy-Cons and the switching between handheld and TV mode. Yeah, Dom. So it's like, then it just becomes like a really beefy handheld, which is cool, but I cannot imagine myself not being like, oh, I'd kind of like to, hop back and forth. I feel like a pro could improve upon an already really cool concept with a Switch, but I feel like this is the opposite of an improvement. I feel like this is kind of a downgrade.
Well, I can do with that like HD Rumble or the detachable Joy-Cons.
For sure.
Like for me, the detachable Joy-Cons are meaningless to me too. Like I'd actually be okay if they were fully attached.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of like that's a relatively moot point.
The non-dockable stuff is the killer. Like, why?
Right.
Why can't I just put it in my dock? I mean,
yeah, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, I don't know how they would have... well, not putting it in the box is how they make it cheaper, I guess, even though the dock is a cheap piece of shit. But it is smaller, so, like, would it fit into a regular Switch dock? That is, once again, logistical nightmare, but... it does suck that it can't be docked.
I will give him points for I personally like all 4 of the grays, like whatever, it's like a boring gray. But like I really like the turquoise and I really love the yellow, and the Pokemon one is pretty
like that yellow, man.
That's my favorite one.
I don't know, man. Those, even the gray they're kind of weird colors to me.
They're
pastel.
pastel.
I don't know why, but
yeah.
They're like halfway to pastel to me. They don't feel like fully pastel colors.
Pass.
I don't know.
They're pass.
Yeah, exactly. But they're like, the gray seems like a much lighter gray from what like I have on my gray OG Switch, and so I don't necessarily like that as much as the original.
Yeah, I see you. Dom?
Yeah, I think they're pretty cool. The light is that's not a me thing because I need the detachable Joy-Cons, and half my Switch time is docked and half is handheld, so I need having 2 controllers and on the TV.
Switch.
You know what I mean? That's all part of it. So obviously, yeah, you're very much getting a gimped version. Gimped might not be the right word, but less features, right?
I don't know. It's kind of a good way to put it. It may be a little bit harsh, but that's about how I feel.
Yeah, but the jump from $300 to $200, that's a big jump, right? Because $300, that's the price of a console, right? That's the price of a PS4 and an Xbox One nowadays, or slightly over even. Whereas $200, that's the price of a handheld that people are typically used to, right? So they're entering, I think they're opening up a whole new market of people who couldn't afford it and wanted one for their kids, but didn't want to give them a $300 handheld, maybe $200, and like you guys mentioned, less parts moving, maybe it won't fail as less. Although if a Joy-Con does break, your whole unit's fucked, right? You can't replace just the Joy-Con. That's the inverse of that. But I think the price point is like really the big deal.
And you think about it's coming out before Black Friday. Like imagine the Black Friday bundles where it's like $180 for it in a game or something. You know what I mean? Where it's like a little slightly cheaper. Where like $180 is even like crazier.
It doesn't hurt to have options.
Yeah.
I will say the reason I'm bitching about color is because I do think in general the color situation since Switch has come out, like I was talking about with the Joy-Cons you mentioned, Jared, I just think that the color situation has not been great. But that's, I've got a solid gray one. I like that it looks, like just like a cool piece of tech, kind of like my other consoles. So
It's crazy
I'm okay with it.
It's crazy you can get a fully customized Xbox controller with Bluetooth in it for less money than Joy-Cons of a certain color. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah. I think that's it for
I'm
this week.
super down. I'm super down with that new regular model, though, because I do get that Joy-Con drift just in the left one every so often. And that battery life, like, it's not so not necessary, right? Because I'm always playing at home handheld, so it's like I can get a charger by me. But then the one thing I hate is like this thing doesn't have Bluetooth, so I'm playing in bed. Oh, I gotta plug the charger in. Got my headphones plugged in. I got cords all draped around me. Yeah, and that to me is where I'm like, okay, better battery life actually helps that because it's that much longer before I have to plug in the power cord. And so now I only have just the headphone cord,
I don't necessarily think you're gonna be guaranteed a better Joy-Con situation. Like
that's true.
They're really gonna have to prove to me, like, I mean, they don't have to prove to me, but like it's gonna be a long time before I trust them with any Joy-Cons because they're so goddamn expensive. They really are kind of like a premium version of the other controllers, and yet they break twice as much. They have all these sync issues. They have the Joy-Con drift issues. Like, the list could really kind of go on, and it's just so fucking obnoxious. The fact that, like, people were accidentally locking when they were trying to put the wrist thing on, that you can, like, slide into place on the Joy-Con, and you can accidentally do it the opposite direction and fuck your thing up. It's like, god damn it, why? Why is it more expensive and it works half as well?
I think in order to see major changes, it'll have to be in that, like, pro model, right? It has to be something that they're actually, like,
maybe
making a move towards newer hardware. Because obviously the new Switch SKU is just like them swapping out a certain part, right? So it's not like changing much of it. And the Switch Lite is like they're removing a bunch of stuff. They're not really adding anything, So it's like, Before we close out, there was one thing I wanted to check. I'll go last in terms of what we're going to be playing. You two can go first. I'm going to see if we had a bet related to the Switch SKUs.
Well, we did. Okay. We definitely did. I said something about it. I can't remember what, though.
I'm looking.
But,
go ahead.
What I'm going to be playing, Red Dead. That's it. I am, at any day now, as soon as I start to get bored on Red Dead, which may or may not happen for 3 months, but I do want to play this damn Cadence of Hyrule game because I've not played it yet, which is...
Oh.
If you would have told me, at any previous point in my life that a new... Okay, never mind. In the past, 3 years that a new Switch Zelda game came out and I didn't play it at launch, I would have told you to smack that future version of me. So I got to play Cadence of Hyrule.
Yeah, but you didn't realize how many fucking Zelda games they're going to be tossing out left and right.
Yeah, it's true. What are you going to be playing, Jordan?
So, who knows if I'll even pick up a controller this week, I mean, I might drift
It'll just
on
drift
by
left
a
on
console.
you anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. I'll just be like, I don't actually have to pick up the controller for it to actually move my character right now. So, let's see. Let's talk about stuff I'm definitely going to be watching. More Hannibal Season 2, because that's a gripping show, let's say. I'm just a couple episodes away, gentlemen, from finishing the entire series, I should say, of Teen Titans, which is, if I don't have a chance to talk about it, I mean, it's just a delight. It is a really cool show. It's right there at the cusp when you can see American animation really starting to pull in the anime influence, which the show has a whopping ton of. And so yeah, the last few episodes, this final 5th season, they've been doing kind of a more connected through line for the story, and connecting it episode to episode as opposed to a little bit more of a standalone vibe for the other seasons. So I've really been enjoying that, and just I love DC Comics. I love these characters, and Teen Titans. That series is a big part of the reason why. So yeah, it's been cool to go back through the entire series and see all the episodes and, you know, individual characters getting their own stories and time to shine. So yeah, I absolutely love that show, and I'm excited for the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans movie that we'll be getting later on this year. So there's that. I've been watching plenty of Gundam. Some G Gundam, some Double Zeta Gundam. So definitely be continuing on with the Gundam. I gotta say, man, G Gundam, Dom, I know you've been asking me about this. G Gundam has thus far my favorite fucking Gundams, dude, because this one's actually about all these different space colonies from different countries, like Neo Mexico, Neo Japan, Neo America. They all have their own Gundam that's fighting, representing them as like their champion, essentially, right, for domination. And they all have very distinct vibes for that country. My favorite is Gundam Rose, and that is from France and has a really cool kind of like French officer's military uniform kind of vibe to it, whereas Gundam Spiegel from Germany kind of has like what do they call them from World War One, with like the helmet, kind of like what Star Wars would bring to the table with Stormtroopers, but you have like the helmet with the spike on top. You know what I'm talking about? Stuff like that.
All right.
You don't know what I'm talking about, like from World War One?
I know what you're talking about.
Thank you, Jared. Gundam Bolt. There's a lot of cool Gundams, so yeah, loving the Gundams in G Gundam. Totally 90s, very, very much 90s anime. So, Jared, you got your answer?
Yeah. So, first, what I'm going to be playing, Super Mario Maker 2. Probably going to hop into one of the Shadow of War or Gears 4. I want to get Gears 4 in before Gears 5 comes out. So during the end of the year episode, you know, when we normally go over like our predictions, we're going to have some interesting discussions about like semantical arguments and whether something counts or not. So first up, one of the predictions was, will Pokemon 2019 Switch bundle feature custom Joy-Cons? So technically, obviously there is a custom Pokemon, but they're not. Are they still considered Joy-Cons if they're permanently attached?
I don't know. That's so tough. Shit. Because I would.
Here's the
I
thing.
Can go either way.
There's no incentive for us to disagree on this because we all literally predicted the same thing. We all said it would, and the question was the colors, and we said each colors of each version, which we got right because one side of it's blue and one side of it's red.
Damn, dude, this is weird.
Yeah, so we all guessed the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. We all either got a point.
Well,
or
the buttons
even...
actually, I can get your semantics going. The buttons are the one that are the different color. Even if it was technically a Joy-Con, the Joy-Con itself is not a different color.
True. So
you got an etching of each of the Pokemon on the back, though, from both games.
But it's not on the Joy-Cons; it's in the middle of it.
Right.
Like if you cut it off, they'd be more in the middle. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either all get a point or don't get a point. It doesn't matter. Another thing, Dom, you said one of your predictions was Nintendo Switch Revision lighter system and new batteries. You nailed it. There was another one here. Where was it?
Right down the middle.
Obviously, there's a bunch of these that we can answer by now, but there was another one that was relevant to this. Here it is. What won't happen?
Wait, but was Dom talking about one single item there? Because one of them has a better battery, and one of them is the light version.
No,
they both have a better battery.
The Lite has a better battery than the regular Nintendo Switch.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, slightly better. It's the base one is 2.5 to 6, and the one on the Lite is 3.5 to 7, as reported by. Yeah, slightly better, but still better. The other one was what won't happen in 2019. Microsoft gets more studios, no PSX, or Nintendo Switch revision. I said PSX wouldn't happen. Dom said PSX wouldn't happen. Jordan, you said there wouldn't be any hardware revision for Nintendo Switch. So you got that one wrong.
Wow. I took a gamble
there.
I remember taking a gamble there, and I lost.
This one's going to be tough by the end of the year. Just a couple of predictions that are relevant to this episode. One of the ones I had was we'll know more officially about the next Xbox than the PS5. That's tough because we kind of know like vague stuff about both of them. You know what I mean? So we'll have to figure out which one we technically know more about.
Stuff.
It's official.
Well, no, I guess.
No, the PlayStation had the interview.
Talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about that at the end of the year and see which one technically has more. And then, Jordan, this one's tough because you said Microsoft announces the next Xbox before PS5. The thing is, we don't know either of their names. PlayStation came first, but they didn't give a name to it. They just said our next PlayStation.
I would say that neither of these consoles have been announced.
I agree. Yeah.
The companies have confirmed that they're making next-gen machines, but they have not announced them.
Yeah, because even what's the new one called? What's the new Xbox called? Project Scarlet.
Scarlet?
I wouldn't say it's an announcement.
Scarlet?
For me, announcement is
right.
like the
so
official name.
They haven't even announced a reveal event. So like if they were doing a reveal event, that would be them like announcing we're doing a console and here's the reveal event is going to be at this time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it, but if you wanted, you could get into another semantic argument about the definition of announcement, but I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. Well, because the whole thing too is that they haven't called it the PS5 and the specific thing is before PS5. That's a whole other semantic. If you want to go semantic.
It's going to be
Jeez.
Yeah.
There's my bet.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
The tough thing, though, is I think as it sits, I think you have more of a chance to get it wrong than to get it right. I think you're going to sit in the middle because I don't think Microsoft's going to talk about it again this year. Whereas if we do have PSX, we have a chance of them talking about the PS5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But who knows?
True.
I could be wrong about that.
Jared, can you name the movie that I just quoted?
I didn't hear your quote.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Oh, How to Train Your Dragon?
No, what? I guess my accent wasn't on point. Dom, you got a guess?
It sounded Scottish.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, what's the one? I don't know. Fucking Boondock Saints or something?
No, it's not. No, that's Irish. And
Member?
No, it's Nacho Libre.
Oh yeah, that was a bad accent. You're
Never seen it.
you're
Let's
normally
get down to the nitty-gritty.
You're normally really good with voices. Totally sounds Scottish to me. I would have never guessed Nacho Libre.
I mean, like, I get where you're coming from, but, like...
Jack Black isn't very good at accents either. So.
Well, I'm trying to, like, do a version of this guy, like, making fun of people that are trying to do stupid Mexican accent. Like, it's a whole thing.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember that scene.
I ate some bugs. I ate some grass.
Got it.
I used a leaf to wipe my tears.
Before we go, condolences to the Kyoto animation team in Japan. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was an arson attack and it like killed 33 people. There was
no shit, dude.
Yeah.
Anime News Network over here. Whoa.
And they're one of like the more prominent animation studios in Japan. Like they're responsible for like a lot of stuff. So that's really unfortunate. Michael Huber recently lost his brother to cancer, which is awful.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Michael Huber's obviously a friend of the show. He's been on the podcast. Love and respect. Cancer sucks, man.
Love and respect.
Thank you guys. We'll see you guys. Completely got jumbled there. We'll see you guys next week on episode 152. Please follow us on iTunes. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter.
Please be excited for E3.
Did I say excited for E3?
No, it's just I love. You know what I'm referencing? Like it's a Square Enix guy who unveiled
please
like
be excited.
A Final Fantasy game, and then he's just as he walking off stage, he just says, "Please be excited for E3," and it's like, oh man, that's some Japanese to English, not quite there.
Follow us on Twitter. Jordan is at Melomodus. Dom is at Dom's Oreos. I'm at Jared _ Controlled Interest is at CTRLINT. It's Controlled Interest abbreviated. We'll catch you guys next week. See you guys later. Bye.